Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to Three Guys in a Warehouse. My name is Tyler and I took over enemy ship. So I am the pilot taking over the ship of these maggots, and I'd like to welcome my subordinates today. So welcome Dylan.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
And welcome Alex.
Hello.
Alex lost his shit.
Hello.
Alex doesn't even watch anime, so he's going to try his best today, but I apologize on behalf.
Newbie gets into anime.
Yeah, I like Avatar,
Castlevania.
Voltron, Castlevania,
is probably the best anime of the current season.
Corey in the House.
Castlevania season 3.
Yeah.
Corey in the House.
And Real Bros of Simi Valley.
Oh, bless.
Oh, yeah, bro.
I need to catch up on that.
Yeah, bless up.
Bud.
Oh, yeah, bud?
Fuck, bud.
God damn it.
So Tyler, what are we talking about today?
Yeah.
Why did you have us on?
Well, you put an ad on Craigslist for a good-looking Canadian boy, and I figured
With a sweet, sweet ass.
I figured this is a family podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, you put out on an ad on Craigslist, and I thought I'd respond in true Canadian fashion, and I have to apologize first for responding. I'm sorry, but today we're going to be talking about anime studios. We each have recommendations of our current favorite anime studios and a batch of shows that we recommend that you should watch from each of them, and then we're going to talk a little bit of shit about some anime studios that are going downhill. So
That's what we came for.
Or do we have honorable mentions? Does anybody want to shout out honorable mentions before we get into our core three?
I got some honorable mentions.
Okay, give it.
Shout out to Production IG before they fucked up Fully Cooley, but they were good for a bit. They're no longer on my. They're not terrible now, but they're no longer.
What about Psychopath season 3?
Psychopath season 3. I heard it was good. Science Sato by Masaki Yuasa studio. Not enough out there yet.
No.
Shout out to JC staff. Quality stuff, but just missed out. Bless Studio Wit. I love their shit. Really good stuff. Not a fan of Attack on Titan.
I actually have Studio Wit on my list, so.
Oh, you do?
We will dive into them. Yeah.
Oh, we'll get into that. Then I put a Kimuna Citrus. Studio Kimuna Citrus. I think that's how you say it. But fun fact, some staff from Production IG and Studio Bones merged together to make that studio. So shout out to them, and I think that's all I got.
That's probably the good staff, because Bones even is.
I'm sorry. What? Sorry. What was that? You wanna? All right. Okay.
Before we get into our core three on the topic of, you brought up Production IG, I was just wondering, I know you're a big fan of Fooly Cooley, and I haven't seen any of the sequels. What do you think was detrimental about them? I
mean, just one point, visually not on the same level.
No.
You cannot. I mean, obviously you can't replicate, the animation from 2000 and 2018 era. It's just they don't do what is it, cell shading anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So there's different techniques, but it just visually it's so boring. It doesn't look exactly how it used to be. They didn't bring back any of the staff. I mean, I know the original Fooly Cooley did have Production IG work on it.
Yeah.
That's why they were able to get the rights as well. But just visually already disappointing, and that's really, and the music was not as good. The pillows came back.
I've heard that was the only redeeming factor, was the fact that they got the pillows back on board.
The soundtrack wasn't as banger as the original, in my opinion.
a
They do have
shame.
2 good songs, but it's not like a whole soundtrack I download and listen to.
What about the OPs?
They didn't have openings.
Oh,
Because
no?
the original Fooly Cooley didn't have opening. Well, it's weird because this, so the original Fooly Cooley is an OVA series, so it comes out infrequent. It'll come out once a month. This was a TV series, or it's shown as a TV series. So that's also one thing, because I guess there's maybe certain standards, or not standards, but certain limits that they have that they can show on TV, or
that's true.
like the scheduling. But overall, I thought it was going to be good, or at least maybe decent, but it did not live up to any expectations.
Was
that
the stylization of
different?
The animation?
Yeah, it wasn't. They didn't do the experimentalness of the
Gainax
original.
did. Yeah.
And they do replicate a manga scene, but it's not the same, dude. It just it looks.
The original definitely had Gainax charm, and did they have a completely new director for the sequel too?
It's it's a completely different staff, I'm pretty sure.
Real quick, didn't the show almost go bankrupt from doing the manga scene?
Oh yeah, they said it was just too brutal to make.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell it looks very like intricate the way they
Yeah.
did it because it's animated, but it's so detailed like a manga panel.
hmm
And it was fantastic, brilliant show, top 5 anime of all time.
Yeah, it's really good. Very abstract, but very entertaining.
Yes, sir.
Just over the top.
I love it.
Yeah.
420's coming up, boys. Watch Fooly Cooly.
Okay, watch
America's
Fooly
birthday.
Cooly there.
Yes. But that's all I have to say
Actually,
about
this is
that.
probably gonna air after that, but
Oh shit. Yeah.
well, may I have to put this one out first, or just right off the bat?
2 off the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did miss last week.
Yeah, we did.
That's all right. Quarantine. Everybody understands. Hopefully.
But,
Okay, so getting into, well, I don't know, Dylan, did you have honorable mentions, or because I don't? I just have my core 3.
No, I think Alex covered them all.
Okay.
Well, you didn't mention Studio Bones though. I don't think. As
Dude, are you fucking serious right now, bro?
Here we go. Red card.
honorable mention.
Honorable
Red
mention
card.
for what? This is top 3
Red card to
studio.
Dylan.
It would never
Bones
be
is-
an honorable mentions. Oh my god.
Damn, sorry. Well, I did mine different. I did mine as up and coming. I keep getting
Okay.
red cards.
All right. Well,
I'm
you
surprised I
decided to
haven't
do a
been
different
kicked
way.
off already.
Don't ever say Bones honorable mention in the same sentence for me.
Sorry. You didn't tell me your list beforehand. Oh, God.
All right, Tyler,
So
take it
mean.
away.
He's so mean. Hey,
Take it
you
away.
hard for
Take
that.
it away.
It's crazy. You just
Okay.
attack.
Okay, so for my for my first one, I'm gonna get my obvious pick out of the way, which is Trigger.
Mm.
Yes, my first pick as well.
They're your first pick too. Cool.
Yeah.
So we can just kind of collab and talk about that then. So,
Yeah, but you're not
for- whoa. Say sorry.
sorry.
We're all Canadian.
The warehouse has teleported to Canada.
Specifically,
Recording
Ontario.
in the igloo. 3 guys in an igloo.
Yeah, 3 guys.
That's the title right there.
There you go. There's the episode title. So yeah, we were just talking about Gynax and pretty much the Gynax charm that they implemented into Fooly Cooly and why it was lackluster with Production IG. And I think the charm of Studio Trigger is that they had one of their most, I guess, prolific animators, Hiroyuki Imaishi. After I think he animated and directed Panty and Stocking, and then after that, he made a name for himself first with Gurren Lagann, which is like my favorite anime of all time personally, and then he directed Panty and Stocking, which is another hit or miss series for a lot of people, but I liked it just from like a style perspective. After directing that, he kind of decided he wanted to branch off from Gynax because Gynax ended up being like a sinking ship, I guess, and that's when he branched off and decided to co-found. I don't know the name of the other guy that he co-founded with, but they came up with their own studio called Studio Trigger. And they've done, I believe, 1 or 2 adaptations and co-productions. But other than that, they pretty much have completely original works, which is why I think they're great. They don't do a lot of adaptations, so you're not going to have like a fan base getting hyped up over source material and then being let down. Like you're pretty much starting fresh with a new concept, which is nice. And they opened up with Kill la Kill, which is hit or miss with a lot of people, but I think it has a pretty strong fan base. It has a pretty strong cast behind it. Like it had banger soundtrack by Sawano, had really great animation. All in all, I think it was a strong entry to their start. And then after that, they had, like I said, I think their first adaptation was, I actually haven't seen it, but When Supernatural Battles Become Commonplace.
I've seen it.
Yeah, I
Good
know
show.
you've posted about it. It is good.
I like it because it does reference. It references a lot from Kill la Kill actually. There's a lot of mini references in there, and I don't know. It was overall really enjoyable, I would say.
Nice. So I'm definitely going to watch that. But the only reason I've been putting it off is because I tend to like their original works a lot more. But that was their first adaptation. It was based on a light novel. And then they did a mini series, which was Space Patrol Luluko, Kisniver, which I actually haven't completed yet. I've been kind of putting that off. And then they have some other bangers like Little Witch Academia, Gridman, and then currently airing his Brand New Animal. And then Darling in the Franxx obviously went downhill by the end of it. But then I wouldn't necessarily blame Trigger for that. It was a co-production with Cloverworks, and I think there was a lot lost in translation between the two studios working together. So I think there was a lot to be said about their consistency when creating like really stunning visual works, and then them having a very unique IP. So I don't know. I just really appreciate even if the shows don't turn out well in the end and people tend to hate on them, I think they're very unique in their own right.
I think that's what makes them stand out so much. Yeah, I mean, especially Kill la Kill. Yeah, that was like best thing they could open up with.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was gonna say like I do like the fact that even if their shows don't turn out good or they have like a love-hate relationship with like the anime community,
Yeah.
I love that there's like that conversation to be
Mhm.
had though. Like even if you hated it, most likely you're just gonna keep watching it because you're just gonna
Somebody's
see it like crash
Yeah.
and burn, and then I don't know. It's like it's always just entertaining to see. That's what I liked about Gainax because they had some shows that would kind of crash and burn at the end, or some that
Yeah.
would actually end up being really good. But it's just like that replication is in Trigger, and that's why I like them as well. Even though they're not in my top 3, I do enjoy their works a lot.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I think you always at least get the beginning half is a really
Oh, yeah.
solid show too.
For sure.
So
Mhm.
it's pretty much just how well you can deal with the ending
Yeah.
when it comes to watching a Trigger show.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is likely going to end up in space. But
Yeah, most
Pretty
of the
much
time,
Kill la
yeah.
Kill. Well, Gridman didn't, I guess,
Yeah.
but it was
Gridman
kind of
had a
like
I mean, it
pretty
was
cool
in a
twist.
different.
yeah, I did. I did like Gridman a lot.
I'm surprised Gridman actually has, according to, on Mal, a lower rating than Darling in the Franxx, which I don't
Really?
know. I don't understand how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that's
I think people just didn't really like. I don't know, because Tokusatsu is such like an old nostalgic thing. So I feel
Mhm.
like for the current anime fan base, like I don't know where I got this fact. I've just heard it before that the current like life cycle for an anime fan is only 3 years. So like the current anime fandom has probably only been in the fandom for 3 years, and if they haven't grown up watching like Power Rangers or Kamen Rider or anything like that, or they're not like if they're especially young, like I feel like the bulk of the population on my anime list is probably really young, like 15 years old or between
Mhm.
15 and 19. I feel like they're not going to have that nostalgia effect that a lot of other people have who have been watching anime for a long time. So that probably attributes to the low score, at least to some extent.
I think it also depends on the shows that are getting advertised more too to those younger crowds. Because I feel like
Mhm.
people who have been watching anime, they kind of already know what to watch and where to go. I think Trigger is still relatively new, and some of their stuff's just so out there that it makes it harder for them to really get to the higher score on some of those shows.
Mhm.
But I mean, Little Witch Academia, I've heard nothing but good things.
Hmm.
And then Promare and BNA, both of those.
Yeah, I didn't even mention Promare. That's like
Yeah, no, I was a little surprised by that. I was like,
yeah,
thought that was
the
gonna be the
biggest-
first thing.
Yeah, right. Promare
Promare's
was
a banger.
yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah, almost went to space.
And then
Almost.
my favorite work by them, believe it or not, is Inferno Cop, just for the absurdity of it. Have you guys seen it?
I couldn't get
haven't
into it.
watched it.
I
No.
couldn't get into it. Yeah.
It's really stupid humor, but it's right up my alley, I think.
Well, did you ever watch Ninja Slayer?
Nope.
I've heard that like a lot of people that liked Inferno Cop ended up watching Ninja Slayer, and I was like really excited for it, but it did not turn out exactly the way I thought it was going to be. But I know that people that like Inferno Cop like that one, and it's by Trigger too. So
Yeah, I think that was like their. I'm looking at the dates right now. That was their third work. They did Kill la Kill, then they did Commonplace, and then after that, or Inferno Cop, and then Ninja Slayer, which is not even like a TV anime. It was like they called it original net animation, so it was just randomly published online.
yeah,
But yeah, Studio
They
Trigger.
also, yeah,
Studio
they've
Trigger,
also worked
what's
on
up?
some American stuff too. They worked on one of the episodes of Steven Universe,
Mhm.
and they did some of the opening animation for OKKO Let's Be Heroes.
Yeah, and what other show? Adventure Time. I think Imaishi directed an episode of Adventure Time, and that like blew up on the internet.
oh shit, that's actually badass.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Alex went through an Adventure Time phase.
Yeah, I did. I was like 100 episodes deep, just nonstop.
Yeah, it's entertaining. It's good. Like I think it's one of those American cartoons that anime fans can definitely get into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
One
I
of the
agree with
best
that.
anime openings ever.
Jesus.
Red
Oh,
card.
God. Get the fuck out.
I'm done. I'm off the podcast.
I'm done. Yeah, I took over shit. You're done.
And shout out to Brand New Animal for that baseball
Yeah.
episode.
Oh yeah.
I actually haven't even
I mean,
seen it yet. I'm waiting because I don't know. I feel like all the current seasonals are getting postponed, and
Mhm.
I don't want to get invested into the show and watch like up to episode 10 and then not have the final 2 episodes for like a month maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know how long Brand New Animal is supposed to be, but I have to assume that they're probably done with the production because they already released like 6 episodes
Mhm.
in one
Yeah.
go. I don't know if because there's I think Carlos. I don't know if I heard this from Carlos where he said some shows have already finished production, so they won't be canceled or pushed back.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see what happens with that, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully it works out, but I feel like it'll be a two-cour. I don't think it'll just end. I don't know. We'll see. Little Witch Academia, which was by the same director, ended up being 24 episodes, I think. So
Yeah.
24, 25. Yeah. And then one thing Alex mentioned that I wanted to add to is like whether or not people like works from the studio, like there is something about them that sparks conversation. And like one of the memes that go around every time a new Trigger show comes out is like Trigger saving anime.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's noteworthy. Like whether or not you like the show, you can't deny the fact that they do have like a really, really unique visual style, and they have like these really creative ways of telling stories, even if they're not like specifically to your taste. And they are a little bit wacky. Sometimes they have some off-putting humor. If you're looking for something a little bit more like intellectually stimulating, it's probably not for you. But then again, they do have stuff that are a little bit, they have deeper pockets that you could dive into. Like Gridman had a really cool plot twist at the end that you could think about philosophically. And then you can like, there's a lot of arguments for philosophical concepts in like Kill la Kill, or you can just take it as it is at face value and enjoy it for like the fan service and the magical girl aspects and all the action and the music. And like for me, it just reminds me of being a kid on Saturday morning and getting hyped up over cool action scenes. And like I feel like every time a Trigger show comes out, whether or not like the narrative is like completely fleshed out and has a good ending and has these great developed characters, I feel like you're always gonna have like a hype factor that's involved with them, and that's why I love it.
Yeah, no, I can definitely agree with that.
That, and they're like the only studio that is even remotely doing anything like mech style now. I mean, mech has basically
Pretty
just
much
died
dead.
out, so I kind of get excited when they're like Gridman isn't a mech, but it's kind of close, so it's like cool to see. But you know,
It's the closest thing that's come
Yeah.
out other than Gundam.
yeah, and it's got kaiju, so that's awesome
Yeah.
too.
And they're branching off and they're making more within that IP as well. So more SSSS.
Like what is it? Starts with the D, I think.
Daimon or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know what it's called, but it's by the same director, same staff and everything. So it should have same visual style. We'll have another girl with thighs.
I was just about to say that. Oh my god! It's like as long as they bless me with some thick thighs, waifus.
I'm sure we'll get cameos from the characters too. So that'll be cool.
Yes, sir. Good pick.
Do
Good
you,
pick.
I mean, do you think? Because it'll be in a kind of in a separate world, won't it?
It's the same universe, I think, right?
So yeah, the way it works is like, if you think about the world of Gridman, for people who haven't seen it, here's a spoiler alert, but like it's a digital world and it's made up. And I feel like the universe that'll take place in the other one will be like maybe like another separate parallel universe, and it'll be another digital world, and somehow they'll connect. Like maybe Gridman will like I guess hop universes for lack of a better word, because
multiverse, a digital multiverse.
yeah, pretty much, because the whole concept is like it's real life, and then the whole narrative of Gridman took place in like this online world that the girl created.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. I feel like it'll be another concept where you have like the actual core of the story stems from like real life, like our world, and then there's another digital world and all these characters inhabit it and whatever. But I don't know. I'm pretty hyped for it.
Yeah, no, it's super. I mean, Gridman, I just watched recently, and it was freaking amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could binge it. Did you binge it?
Yeah, no, it's
I think it was
definitely
too episodic for me. But same with, that's the one complaint I had with Little Witch Academia. I couldn't get into it. Like I really loved it. I love the characters, love the art style and everything, but I could not get into it until like the second half of season 2, because it was like a Monster of the Week format.
I actually, damn, we're talking so much about Trigger, but going back with Gridman, because I did like the show a lot. The feeling of it reminds me a lot of the original Evangelion, because it has like this relaxed. It's almost relaxed, but I'm trying to think of like the word. It's like the atmosphere is very similar, and the way the fog works and how the characters are kind of used to living the way they are, even if everything in that world is like kind of fucked.
Yeah.
Like there's kaiju in the distance, and just like in Evangelion, there are angels. They know the existence of it, but they still kind of go about their regular lives. And I don't know, the tone of both series are very similar. That's why I really liked Gridman, because it was kind of like a throwback.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from with that, because each day, I mean, people are literally dying, and I mean, they're understanding it, but they're still just going about their lives. They're still going to school, or they're not doing so much about it until a kaiju appears.
Right. And it also has that similar. I feel like this is like a Hideaki Anno style. It's like with the train signal You
Yeah.
guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's like present in that, and I don't know. It was like a cool throwback. I feel like so
They
that's why-
had we'll get off the topic of Trigger and you guys can hop on with your next studio or whatever, but at least there was a 2-in-1. At least me and Dylan both had it in our list. But there was one of the Easter eggs that they had was in Gridman, there was like a shot for shot of a scene with it came from Ava where geez, people are gonna kill me for forgetting his Shinji. I almost forgot Shinji's name. He's at like a payphone and there's like a phone book stacked up and whatever, and there's like a shot for shot replication of Rika actually doing the same thing. And if you put them side by side, they look identical. And I think there's a lot of Ava Easter eggs, I guess, incorporated into Gridman, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of callbacks, which I mean, like Trigger's known for that. Like everything, even if they don't take place like quote unquote in the same universe, there are a lot of like links between every show, even if they go back as far as like Gainax works. Like pretty much if Imaishi has touched a property, it's going to come back in a future show for sure.
But that's what makes it so unique. That's why I like Trigger, is because all those the creators are kind of like, it's not like they're all freelancers. It's like some of them are in house and they all kind of, I feel like they all share the love of what they used to make in Gainax and then bring it back.
They've all been together. It's been the core team of Trigger and everybody that works on like anything that Imaishi directs, which in my opinion is all the best stuff that comes from the studio. It's the exact same team that worked on like Gurren Lagann and Penny and Stocking, and even they all worked together as key animators back on Ava before Imaishi actually became a director. So it's cool because they've been like a tight-knit group of co-workers for like years and years and years, dating back to when Ava was like in production. So it's cool to see them still like working together and not freelancing for other studios, and they all take on the same projects together. And I think that's why everything that comes out from Trigger evokes like all the same emotions, and they have the same hype factor, and they're able to incorporate like a lot of callbacks. Like one thing that comes to mind is like the Gainax pose. Like you have at least one hype moment with a Gainax pose in everything produced by Trigger.
I thought you were gonna say something. Dylan.
No.
No, it's okay.
I was just like,
So cut that out. That's a red card.
I saw Dylan get close to the mic, so I was like, oh, he's gonna
I
say
look
something.
over and I see Alex picking his nose.
That's what I was talking about with 3 people.
Yeah. No,
Anyway,
yeah, no, it
that's
was a
Studio
good point.
Trigger
Good
tied
point.
up with the bow. So if you guys want to, whoever wants to take the helm and bring in another studio.
Well, I guess if I'll go off my list, my number 3 is similar. It has like a lot of in-house animators. KyoAni. And yes,
good.
KyoAni.
Yeah.
That's my
The
number
studio. That's your number 2. The studio that specializes in slice of life and feel good shows. So I always
And
appreciate their
also
work.
specializes in treating their employees fair.
Yes, that's actually a very key thing. Love KyoAni. Hopefully they are recovering well, because
Yeah,
you know,
no kidding. That's so fucked up, dude.
yeah, it's very unfortunate. Honestly, it's like that hurt a lot, because just considering like all the shows that they've done and all the creators that have passed away
Because of that.
yeah,
arson.
it's very unfortunate.
Yeah, like the director for Hyoka and Dragon Maid, right? He passed away, unfortunately.
Yeah, and
Lucky
Lucky Star. Yeah, that killed
Yeah.
Dylan, because Dylan loves Lucky. I love
Yeah,
Lucky
man.
Star too. It's so good.
And then currently with everything like on top of the fire, now we have coronavirus, and like I think their next 2 projects that were dated to premiere were the Violet Evergarden movie, and then there's another Free's coming back with either another sequel anime or a movie, but that's going to be delayed until who knows when.
Yeah, it's a free movie, and then the other series called like 20 Seki Denki. Okay, yeah, I can't say that, but their newest one that got delayed as well. But I mean, if you look back at their catalog, they had.
They're
I know
probably
this
one
is
of the most consistently good studios.
Yeah, I think all their works are very well animated. They have very intricate animations, just like of just regular everyday. Like it's not going to be epic usually.
Yeah.
But it's just well animated slice of life stuff.
Yeah, they do slice of life so well.
They did Full Metal Panic Fumofu, which is the funniest side season of any show ever. They had what
Haruhi.
I know Haruhi, the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. They need hopefully they can do more of that at some point. I know this is kind of like a controversial show now for some reason. I thought I really liked it a lot. I'd have to rewatch it, but it's Clannad and Clannad after story.
I wanted to bring that up because a lot of people, dude, are trashing it right now and making posts about how garbage it is. And I haven't seen it. I've watched the first half of the original, and I did end up dropping it at that point and meaning to pick it back. Like I temporarily dropped it because I do want to finish it eventually. But I think I dropped it after the Starfish Girl, and I just couldn't get back into it after that. And I know it's episodic in the first season, and I know like he meets all these different girls, and they all like influence the story in the end somehow. And I've heard After Story has a really good ending, and it's a tearjerker, and I can't wait to get there. But like, I just could not get into it.
Yeah,
The first season's slow.
Yeah.
I will say it is very slow.
the second season, because I just lent it to someone, and he had the same problem. He said, "Yeah, it's just kind of not that interesting." But the second season is what makes the whole story.
Mhm.
I just got they just released a steelbook for it from Sentai.
Nice. So you picked that up during the sale?
No, I pre-ordered it, so
Nice. Cool.
totally worth it.
But real quick,
Got Furu in the steelbook. Sorry. Shout out to Toshi.
yeah, shout out to Toshi. Bless his soul. No, with Clanad, it's one of those things I always think back on. Like, it was one of the first shows I watched before I would even say I was like an anime fan, but I just like watched it on YouTube randomly when I was like still in high school. So I'm always wondering, like, was it because I had nothing else to watch? Like, I didn't know where to go for anime.
Mm-hmm.
So I just found that show and I just stuck with it. So it's like, if I were to rewatch it, would I have a different opinion knowing like everything that I've seen now and just like how I judge shows now? Is it going to hold up the same way that I felt about it back then? Because I've never rewatched it. I've only watched it once, and that was when I was like 14, 15.
Yeah, I feel like if you rewatch it, it'll still be the same.
Mm-hmm.
Because I haven't rewatched it yet either, but I do still love the show, and I feel like the nostalgia feeling, just knowing what's gonna happen.
Dylan almost broke his DVD.
I did. I had the DVD at the time.
He's like, I can't fucking believe this.
I called Alex like, yo, dude, you need to come here and stop me because I'm literally about to break this DVD.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about After Story, and I can't wait to get there. But also, it was based off of a visual novel, and can you imagine playing through that, like through the first season, all the scenarios? Like, I think it would probably be the most dry thing in the world.
Yeah.
So for them to adapt it and actually make it like a really successful series, like the way I heard about it, I feel like it's always been popular. But after I finished Anohana, and I bring this up in every conversation, but it was the first ever anime that made me cry. And after that happened, I was kind of like addicted to that feeling, and I was like, fuck, I got to chase another show that's gonna make me feel the same way. So I was looking literally up on YouTube at lists of the top 10 saddest anime, and After Story would always like consistently be at the top of everybody's list. So I was like, well, I gotta watch it then. But I just never made it to the end of After Story. I never even made it to the end of season 1.
Yeah, I know KyoAni, they did like a trio of they're like the key visual novels. That's where like Clanad comes from. It was Air and then Canon, like Canon, and those are all like supposed to be. Well, Canon was a tearjerker. I watched that. I never watched Air, but apparently that's supposed to be a tearjerker as well.
Yeah, I haven't watched Air either. I've watched Canon. Canon was really.
I did like
a sad
Canon.
Story,
it's very similar, and it actually has or Clanad references Canon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so some cool little knowledge, little nugget of knowledge right there for everybody out there. But aside from that, I mean, they've done Amagi Brilliant Park, which is I think that might be my favorite KyoAni show, or
really?
Maybe at least top 3.
Sento?
Huh? Oh,
Because
the
of
Sento,
Sento?
those thick thighs, bro. But it's just overall, it's such a fun show. The main character is kind of like a douchebag, but that's what makes it so appealing.
Self-insert?
Yeah. Then there's Beyond the Boundary, which is like a very different work for them because it was more action oriented and it had more of a serious storyline going on.
Yeah.
And that was I know like I've heard mixed opinions on it, but I really enjoyed that show. But I don't know. I would love to see more KyoAni anime, hopefully in the future, because they do some quality stuff.
Yeah, they do have a lot of like you guys said, I feel like they're like really, really consistent with their visuals, and their production schedule probably attest to that. But then on top of the fact that their employees are happy, and I know we talked about how like they treat their employees fairly, but like to add context to that, the anime industry is such a shit show in terms of key animators put in so many hours every day and they get paid per drawing. So if they're not productive and if they don't meet their deadlines, then they're not going to get paid. And then I feel like that attributes to an anime falling apart, because a lot of time they're not treating it like as a passion project. They're probably likely treating it more so as a job, and they have to hit a certain quota of drawings every day just to make the money to support themselves. And even then they're making very little money. And Kyoto Animation staff are all on salary, which makes a huge difference. So like they're all on salary, they're all getting paid a set amount every year. So for that reason, they can show up to work every day and actually put passion into what they're working on and not worry about like finishing a certain number of key animations every day or else they're not going to get paid. So I feel like that makes a really big difference in their production values.
Well, that's also probably what I mean. They have a good log of shows, but for being a studio since 2003, they really don't have that many shows.
Yeah, they'd always
They always put out take the
two
time and put out the quality.
2 or 3
instead of
shows
just
a
trying
year.
to, yeah, be a money funnel.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
pump everything out.
And they
Show
debatably
season.
have some of like I would argue, as much as people tend to hate on it, I would argue Violet Evergarden, even if there's other shows that are like more stylistically impressive, like I love Ping Pong and I love a lot of stuff by Trigger, but like Violet Evergarden debatably has some of the best production values that I've ever seen in any animation period. And like I don't know how the fuck they pulled that off, but
I haven't watched it yet, but I've only heard good things about Violet Evergarden.
Yeah, I got halfway through. This is going to be a different opinion, but I wasn't really big on it.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll have to rewatch it for sure and get back on it because I've kind of like have this mini side project where I want to watch every KyoAni show and like do something with it because visually it is impressive. So I mean, hopefully I can like kind of find a way to connect with the story and then watch it all the way through because it is visually amazing.
yeah, it's just it's very melodramatic. So if you have trouble connecting with the characters and it's not very relatable, then it's going to be a little bit tough to get through. Like Violet as a character, I find is not the most intriguing, but you end up having some empathy for her by the end of it because she's been through so much shit. And I don't want to talk too much about Violet Evergarden because we're just talking about KyoAni in general, but it's definitely a show that's hit or miss, and people are either super bored by it or they love it and they connect with the characters. But like regardless of that, I think it's super, super impressive that they were able to make it so visually stunning, and that's something that made it like blow up on the internet for sure, and that definitely attributes to why it's so popular.
Yeah, no, I love KyoAni.
So
Oh my god.
oh my god. Okay, before we move on to the next one, you guys can decide who wants to go next, but I need a quick pee break, I think.
All right.
Yeah,
So
no, you're good.
I'll be like 2 seconds.
We'll re-up on our drinks,
Go for it.
on our juice.
On our juice.
That's all we want to say for KyoAni.
Yeah, I think we can move on.
Yeah, I think that
Cool.
shuts down.
We
the
beat that
KyoAni
down pretty
topic,
well.
Yeah.
Sweet. So I'm
Beat it
gonna
off pretty well.
throw the guns at Dylan, and you can give us your second pick.
So my second pick for a good up and coming studio is Studio Mappa.
Okay.
I think they've been doing a pretty good job. I think they do a good job of incorporating 3D animation with the 2D. And they've got some good shows like Kids on the Slope, Terran Resonance, Rage Bahamut, Banana Fish, and then more recently Doro Hetero.
Yes.
Which you
And-
guys both agree is your favorite anime of the year so far.
Yes,
Definitely of last season for sure.
I don't know. Brand New Animal had a really good baseball episode.
Yeah.
It's
better
it's
baseball episode than.
did Dora Hetero's baseball episode was only half the episode.
But Jones.
Brand New Animal had a whole
Jones-
one episode.
That
yeah.
definitely gives it a leg up.
Jones.
Yeah. No, but Dora Hetero is definitely in consideration for Anime of the Year for
Yeah.
sure.
And
And
I'm sure
Okay.
Alex wants to talk a little bit about Yuri on Ice.
Yuri on Ice, boys. Yuri on Ice.
best fandom.
Best sports anime ever.
So to add a little bit of context, go check out Alex's post about Yuri on Ice on Professor Otaku. We'll throw the link to that in the bio.
Definitely getting banned.
Here's the I feel like a lot of the people that read that misunderstood that I just hate the fandom, not the show.
'Cause you
'Cause
actually you like the show, right?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I think it was actually a really solid ice skating show. I think the way the competitions are done were done really well. It made me feel like I was actually watching an ice skating, competition, even though I would never do that. But it was just cool to see what it would look like in anime form. But the director, damn, I'm forgetting her. I think it was a female director. I can't remember her name though. But I know she worked on.
Yuri on Ice.
Yeah, she worked on.
Sayo Yamamoto.
Is it Sayo Yamamoto?
Yamamoto.
She worked on the Lupin the Third series, the woman called Fujiko Mine, which is like one of my favorite Lupin entries. It was my first Lupin, and she did Michiko and Hachin, which are visually really really like fun shows. And it's like similar with Yuri on Ice. I think visually it's solid. It's not the greatest. It didn't deserve animation of the year. That with the year it won.
It got anime. I know it got anime of the year. It got animation too.
Yeah, it beat Mob. I think it beat Mob Psycho out because Mob
that's a
Psycho came
shame.
out that same year. Yeah, it's That's why I made that post.
Greatest betrayal.
Yeah. But no, I did like Yuri on Ice a lot. But the thing about Mappa, at least, is one thing I love about them is that they might not make the cleanest productions, but they'll try like everything they can to make something just seem epic. Because with like Rage of Bahamut, we were just talking about it, how visually it just tries to like be awesome, even though it can look kind of like
but super
it's
experimental.
Fun. Yeah, but it's really fun.
Yeah, you weren't sure what was gonna hit, but yeah.
So
I think with Dorohedoro as well, they did a good job of adapting the characters from the manga and applying it to anime, because in the manga he's a lot more scrawny. He's more of a lizard with
the
a
Kaiman
long
lizard,
snout.
yeah,
like a Kaiman lizard. But he's just this huge buff dude in the anime, and I think they did a really good job. And then just the 3D animation blending with the 2D was just so well done and so smooth. I mean, you could tell when it was different, but it didn't take away. Yeah, exactly. It looked a little more natural than what you'd typically see. And they also did a movie called In This Corner of the World, which animation, the best animation at the 40th Japan Academy Awards or something like that.
Nice. It's on Netflix too, right?
Yeah.
I think I've seen advertisements for it on Netflix, and I've been meaning to watch it. It's very, I don't know if it looks like a Ghibli film, but like looking at the promotional art and stuff and like the way that Netflix is kind of promoting it, it looks very much like a Ghibli film to me.
It looks like Isao Takahata's like art style. I hope I didn't mispronounce his name. I probably did, but I actually own that movie. I haven't watched it either, but I'll get back to you guys.
The director of the movie was the assistant director in Kiki's Delivery Service.
Ooh,
so
nice.
Could be part of
best Studio Ghibli movie actually.
Yeah.
Kiki's Delivery Service. I love that movie.
Debatable, but I love it. But I do appreciate it. I like it a lot. I think that was actually probably the first Ghibli movie that I've ever watched. But anyway, we're not talking about Ghibli today, so.
We'll save that for another episode.
Yeah, we'll save it for another episode. We'll have to binge everything from Ghibli and then talk about everything. But I don't know. Going through Mappa's catalog though, I'm really guilty of not watching a lot of the shows that they've put out. But like, there's some pretty big names, and like a lot of the shows that you guys, it makes sense, Dylan, that you would pick it because a lot of the shows that you guys tend to talk about end up being produced by them. Yeah. And I feel like there's not a lot of they haven't put out like a shit ton of contenders for like anime of the year 10 out of 10 shows, but like there's a lot of shows on here that I feel like people hold in high regard, like a lot of like 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 shows. Like just going through it, there's so many, like Kids on Slope I've heard nothing but good things about, Hajime no Ippo, Terror in Resonance, Garo, like you guys just said, Rage of the Bahamut, Ushio and Tora I've even heard good things about. What else is here? Like there's so much recognizable names that
even
Kakagurui, Banana Fish, Yashiki. The only thing about Mappa though is similar to, because I think like one of the guys that worked in Madhouse came, they have like, it's some of their shows can be hit or miss. Yeah, like they are kind of inconsistent. Like right now they have Listeners going on. It's one of the worst shows of the season right now. Terror in Resonance, good show, but I think halfway through it kind of stumbles a little bit with the introduction of one of the characters that I was not a fan of.
Dude, I don't know what's going on with Watanabe, but like I feel like Bebop is definitely his magnum opus. I feel like he's never going to redeem himself after like everything he's produced after Bebop.
I think Samurai Champloo makes a decent contender for it, but it definitely just plays off of what Bebop was anyway. But I think a lot of people at least hold the hip hop aspects in high regard, and I do enjoy that. But yeah, it's Bebop is better. Period.
Yeah. Anyways, Mappa, do you guys have? I'm not really super familiar with the studio. Like I said, I haven't seen a lot of shows that they've produced, but there are a lot of like heavy hitting names on here looking at it. But I don't know, like what show would you guys each say is your favorite and you'd recommend people to watch from what they've put out?
Garo the Animation is their best anime.
Dylan, would you agree?
I haven't watched Garo yet, actually.
So I can't really promote that opinion, but I'll take your word for it. I'll go watch Garo. Like you've put on your Instagram, you've posted some pretty badass looking clips from it, so it's definitely piqued my interest.
I just want people to watch it, man. It's one season. I know there's multiple Garus, but they don't really connect except for the fact that they're part of like the Garu franchise, which is Medieval Power Rangers, which is already awesome. But the original, Yes, it is. It's fucking. Oh, dude, please, please. But it's just I think it does a really good job with the character development. It's badass. And then it has like a movie attached to it, a movie sequel, which visually is amazing, dude. You guys have got to watch it.
The Divine Flame.
The Divine Flame, yes, sir. Divine as fuck.
I mean, I would say from what I've watched from them, other than Doro Hetero just coming in and wrecking everything for me, Rage of Bahamut, or in a good way, or Terror and Resonance are both really good shows from Map as well. So
cool. And then hopefully, I don't know, like you guys said, Listeners is not doing so hot right now, but they are producing The God of High School, which is based off a webtoon, and I feel like it's a pretty popular webtoon. It definitely has a lot of emphasis on action from what I've heard, and it might not be like the best plot, but I think it'll be enjoyable. And just based on the trailer that Crunchyroll put out, because Crunchyroll's co-producing, I think it's technically a Crunchyroll original. I don't know if that means they have anything to do with the production or if they're just funneling money to Mappa to produce it, but hopefully it ends up being worth watching anyway.
It'll be interesting to see because I know it's it's from Korea.
Yeah,
South
the manhwa.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how the manhwa like bleed over now, because it seems like it's really going to happen now.
And the biggest thing with just from some of the art I'm seeing for the God of High School, the only thing I don't like is the main character kind of looks like the main character from Tower of God, so I don't want to see a lot of similar art styles or animation styles. So I hope they do a good job and do a good job of producing this show compared to what we've seen with Tower of God so far. Because I would hate. I mean, it could be a great thing to have these manhwas bleed over into it, but if they don't ever get the treatment that they deserve, then I feel like we'll never get to see maybe a whole new side of anime.
Right. It's basically just other shonen that's getting kind of like brought in. That's what it seems like. It doesn't seem like anything completely different out of this world, which, like, I'm speaking too soon for Tower of God at least. But it, like we said, like we were talking about earlier, how it reminds us, or at least it reminds me of Hunter x Hunter a lot. So and it isn't really
a watered down
version, right? A watered down version of Hunter x Hunter. So I want to see like what the best unique stuff that they have. But I've heard Tower of God is supposed to be really good eventually. So
I think it has over 300 chapters right now.
Yeah, that's what I'll give it. I'll give it some time.
So I don't know. I'm just hoping that, like, because we're seeing a movement right now of webtoons being adapted into anime, which is really cool. So I think that's going to be a cool trend, because right now I feel like we're stuck in like a stagnant state of manga being adapted, which people have already read, so they're familiar with the source material, which is cool, but it's been happening for so many years. And then recently the boom of light novels being adapted more often, which is also cool, because obviously manga is a lot more accessible than light novels. At least it has been, like, historically. But it's cool because I feel like a lot of people in North America or even in Europe, like outside of where the webtoons are produced, are not super familiar with it. Like, I feel like it's a pretty new movement. So it will be cool to have new because, like I said, the reason I love Trigger so much, sorry to bring Trigger back up again, is because they tend to make more original work. So it's cool to have more works that aren't adapted from manga that people are already familiar with, and people are shit talking because they're not happy with how the adaptation turned out. So for more webtoons to be produced where people aren't super familiar with the adaptation or with the source material, it'll be, I don't know. I just think it's cool to have another whole realm of material that is going to be adapted into anime now. So it just, I don't know. It's a cool movement, in my opinion.
No, I know what you mean. Because I mean, like, at least with like the original works, I definitely am more interested when a studio is going to put out something original as opposed to an adaptation. Because with an adaptation, I can already expect that it's not going to be complete. It's, it'll probably have maybe an anime only ending. Like, you never know with adaptations, but with an original work, you'll never know again. But at least it should be a complete story because they're developing it themselves.
Yeah.
But
unless
with,
it's a show that they plan on doing another season 4, but then it never
just don't, But then with like the manhwa, I understand. Fucking Madhouse, bro.
Oh man.
Foreshadowing events. But yeah, no, I understand what you mean.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, Studio Mappa. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to add to that, or you want to bring up another studio?
I think it's your turn. Unless do you have anything, or unless we talked about all the studios you had?
My last one that I wanted to bring up, actually, I don't know if you guys have it on your list, would be Orange.
We didn't
Damn,
talk about
we were
that,
just talking
yeah.
about it.
Were you? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my last studio is Orange. They're fairly new. When did they originate? Like 20, I'm looking at the page right now, 2013, I guess.
Or
Or no, it was founded in 2004, but like the first like actual work. So the way it worked is I'm not even gonna try and pronounce his name, but the founder of the studio is like a really, really renowned CG director, and he got
Oh, yeah.
contracted basically on a shit ton of shows just to do the CG work. And one of his standout works that got him on the map, ironically enough, was a show called Zoids, and I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it, but it was
Yes. Yes.
and it was localized in North America, and it was like a big Saturday morning cartoon for anybody who grew up watching North American anime on television. And he's known for doing the work where an anime is traditionally 2D, and then they need, like, whether it be a mech or anything mechanical, he would do the 3D animation for it. And he was like the best in the industry at the time, and his work was really well renowned. But people, when it started shifting into an era where people were taking advantage of CG because it's more cost effective, and they would make full CG anime, the transition wasn't very seamless, and there was a lot of backlash, and fans weren't very happy with it. And that went even on into later years. Like, earlier, I can think of shows that people were pissed off about were like the Ghost in the Shell, one of the early ones that were full CG, and then, or at least incorporated a lot of CG. And then another one obviously is the infamous Berserk adaptation from 2016 and 2017. And I don't know, like, full CG shows like that just leave a bad taste in people's mouths. And I feel like because of shows like that, especially when they're adapting really popular intellectual property, they give CG in general a very bad rep, because people are blaming the adaptation on poor CG, and like it definitely attributes to the detriment of the show when it looks bad. But I think I read something about it online, and his mission in founding Studio Orange was to give a better name for CG animation. And it says here that on the wiki page that the studio was founded in 2004, but their first actual work that they published wasn't until 2013. So they basically worked as a studio of all CG animators, and they would be contracted by other studios just to do the CG work. And then they ended up publishing their first show, which was Majestic Prince in 2013. And then now the two shows that I think are noteworthy and people need to go watch are Land of the Lustrous and Beastars, which just came out, which are two really, really gorgeous shows. And like, the reason I think, sorry, I'm going on a rant and I'm going to let you guys talk right after this, but I think the reason that they're so noteworthy is because, yeah, his mission is to make CG more, like, leave a better taste in people's mouths, and he doesn't want people trash talking it. But he doesn't want to dedicate himself to only CG. So the studio is primarily known for outsourcing CG work for other studios, but they also implement a lot of really talented 2D animators into the work. And I was watching the behind the scenes production process for Land of the Lustrous, and I'm sure they did the exact same thing for, sorry, I'm forgetting the name, Beastars. So what they have a cool process where they use motion capture, which is like technology that's definitely being implemented into anime more and more now. And they have the motion capture filmed and rendered, and they come up with these 3D mock-ups. But then they actually have really, really talented 2D artists come in and draw on top of the 3D animation. And that just gives it like a really polished, cell shaded look. And then they draw the backgrounds and everything in 2D. And it makes it, I feel like they're really known for having really good looking full CG shows, but people don't recognize that there is a lot of 2D animation that's blended into it. And that kind of, I feel like that's kind of like the main reason why they look so good, is because it still feels like you're watching anime. It doesn't feel like you're watching like a Disney Pixar film where everything's just all 3D all the time. Like, they do have a lot of really good 2D art like blended in within it. So I don't know, that's a studio that I just want to mention because they are, I guess, redeeming CG for a lot of people who tend to hate it. But
no, I actually, that's really fascinating because I was one of the people that hated on CG a lot
all the time.
But after
all
watching,
the time.
yeah,
all the time, he's like, "Yeah, dude, there's CG in this. I hate it."
But after watching Land of the Lustrous, like I definitely had a change of opinion. I was like, okay, let me give like all these other shows that I kind of skipped over that were full CG like a chance. Like, I ended up watching Expelled from Paradise, which ended up being, it's on Netflix, or it was on Netflix, but it ended up being like a solid show or a movie, excuse me. regardless of the CG. It's one of the reasons why I ended up giving High Score Girl a shot as well. Ended up being like one of my favorite shows now because of like the kind of, you know, I'm a 90s philiac, you know me. And it's got like all those references to video. I mean, it's a video game anime, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then actually you talking about the motion capture stuff. I'm not sure if this movie had motion capture like animation, but Gantz O or Gantz Zero on Netflix. Have you watched that?
Yeah.
Good movie.
Visually it's like the CG is. I mean, I thought it was live action at one point. Like,
It's
so crazy.
Well done.
Yeah, it's cool.
But no, I think CG for me is. I've definitely changed my opinion of it a lot. Like, yeah, there's moments where it can look bad and jarring, but there are some studios now that are doing a really good job, and I would say Studio Orange is definitely one of them at least.
And there's other studios that are branching out and doing it too. Like UFO Table is they did. I don't know if you guys watch God Eater, but it's an adaptation of a video game, and that was I believe their first full CG anime, and they had a similar implementation where they made it look very cell shaded, so everything looked very flat, and then they would take advantage of the CG. And like for people who don't know, CG is very beneficial because you can create like 3D environments where the characters can move around, and you can have these camera movements that you can't really replicate with 2D animation unless you put a lot of time into drawing frames of the camera moving. Because like people do have to, in 2D animation, people do have to draw the cameras, and every frame that you draw has to have a different camera movement in it. But when you produce 3D animation, you're able to create these like synthetic 3D environments, and you can just have the computer do all the work and have the camera pan and stuff in ways that you're not able to do unless you put like massive amounts of time and effort and money into drawing it. So that's one really cool advantage. But like I don't know, like the biggest appeal that I think that I was talking about earlier is how they blend 2D animation into it. And like UFO Table is known for doing God Eater. And in my opinion, like whether or not you love the show, I thought it looked really good. But like the reception of Land of the Lester Story was like, I feel like the reason it was received so well is just because they did such a good job of making it actually look like anime. Like you have these CG adaptations of anime where they don't even look like anime anymore. Like you can tell that it's based off the source material. Like for example, we were talking yesterday on Discord about the recent adaptation of the Dragon Quest movie, and then you have like new movies, like there's the remake of the first Pokemon movie. And like, yeah, they look like they're derived from anime, but when you're watching it, it doesn't feel like you're watching anime. But I feel like people like sorry, you guys are probably going to have to edit my voice a lot because I'm having trouble articulating all this. But like people, as they're watching it, they have a bad taste left in their mouth because you're watching an anime and it really doesn't feel like anime. It feels like you're watching this jarring 3D thing that's trying to imitate anime. And then Studio Orange is really, really good at implementing 2D animation in a way that it still retains like an identity that's familiar with anime. And when people are watching it, like they get all the benefits of the CG where you have that crazy panning camera and these really high frame rates where everything's blended and everything feels natural, but it doesn't look jarring because they still have 2D animation or art, I guess, implemented into it where it looks cell shaded and natural. And I don't know, I'm just going on a massive tangent now, but I love everything Studio Orange does with their art, and I think it says a lot that they can produce a full CG show and it still feels like you're watching anime, I guess.
Actually, I did bring it back to Dragon Quest real quick. I do find it like it looked good, but it does feel like it looks more maybe like kind of like a Disney movie. You know, It didn't make me feel like I was watching anime. I did find it kind of frustrating that they didn't use the Akira Toriyama art style.
Yeah.
Because that's like so synonymous with that series. That's like you can't like talk about Dragon Quest without Akira Toriyama. That's how so
just change it
right. And so I found that kind of annoying for that movie. But I overall I agree with everything you're saying though. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just went on a really fucking long rant, so I'm gonna apologize on behalf of that. But
oh no, you're good. It's content.
Yeah,
it's content. But
at least
I
you
don't know.
apologize.
So I talked about Land of the Lustrous and Beastars. Is there anything else that you guys want to mention, or any other shows that you know that they produced that you would recommend?
I started watching a little bit of Black Bullet. I haven't finished it yet, so I'm not recommending it. But when in one of the first scenes, the CGI is just so noticeable because it was a combination of 2D animation and CGI. But I also just picked up Dimension W, and I've watched the opening. I haven't watched the show yet, but I'm curious to see, just based on Black Bullet and then watching Dimension W, it just seems like they've gotten a lot better as far as their CGI. I mean, just getting into Land of the Lustrous and Beastars. I mean, they did a phenomenal job, and I think it was amazing that they picked up Land of the Lustrous because you couldn't replicate gem people that way without the CGI, and they did such a phenomenal job. When you hear the characters, sometimes you'll hear like the stone sound, like the
like
sound
rubbing.
of two stones, like hitting, and you can almost see it and feel it in that animation where you just wouldn't be able to get that from a 2D.
It'd be weird how they would do that in 2D. Yeah, 2D would be very weird. I can't imagine it 2D.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's definitely series that they needed. I guess they needed to take advantage of 3D animation and like to have all those special effects. Like you said, like they had, I don't know, just the character designs, like the way they had this like shimmer to them, and they actually looked like believably like gems. And then on top of that, like all the special effects, like you were talking about from a sound design component, where they implemented like all these different like sounds, like the rocks hitting each other and like different like clangs and stuff like that. Like I guess if you had 2D animation that didn't support that, like the sound design would feel kind of lackluster. But they had like these really, really cool special effects of like stones like breaking and shattering apart, and all these like particles and all the light effects, like all the glowing and the high contrast and everything. I feel like that's just something that you definitely could not do with traditional 2D animation.
Yeah, that and the way some of the metals moved in that show, the gold, it just was so well done. It felt real, even though you knew you were watching something that was animated.
Yeah, I need a season 2.
Yeah, I'm waiting on season 2.
Please.
But
I've been debating picking
Beastars,
up the manga, but I think I'm gonna hold off and hopefully they'll make a season 2. But I don't know. I also feel like Beastars is a pretty long-running manga at this point, and I feel like with all the success it's having, I feel like a lot of people are gonna want a sequel to that as well.
Anthros seem to be coming.
Well, I hope they
very
don't get it.
popular,
I want Land of the Lustrous first.
Yeah, Land of the Lustrous first for sure. But I think they did a great job of making Beastars just seem like anime.
Yeah.
Instead of High Scroll Girl even. You know, whereas Land of the Lustrous, I mean, you could tell it was anime, but it was a different aesthetic compared to Stars.
Yeah, they both definitely succeeded in their own rights, and you could definitely tell they were produced by the same people. Like they had the same kind of 3D charm, and they both looked very cell shaded and like had these like matte color finishes, and it's very evident that they were produced by the same company, but they definitely did a really good job at giving each of them their own like identity. Like they definitely had like distinct special effects that we're talking about, like giving an identity to Land of the Lustrous, where they had a very specific charm in terms of the color design, making the gems look all realistic. And then they had a very specific way of going about the color design and the animation for Beastars, where they gave a nice matte finish for all the coloring of the different animals. And anyway, going off a tangent on that, but
no, that's okay, because I think they did a really good job of showing the range that they can go in CGI, because you have this super futuristic world with gem people and souls, and then you have this more real world but with anthros aesthetic too, and they're just totally opposite ends of genres, but it worked well in both.
I don't know how it would play out, but I would love for them to produce an original mecha. Like I feel like Studio Orange producing a mecha series would be like killer.
You tickled my interest. I do want to see that. Well, isn't Majestic Prince? Is that a mecha? Yeah, that is a mecha. But I guess it's not original.
I think the biggest thing that would change it is the scale.
I want to see it happen.
Yeah,
co-produced with Mappa.
Mappa.
Or even if they got contracted, because like before they started producing their own work, like I said, like they just got contracted to do CG for other studios. But it'd be cool if like Sunrise kind of let their guard down a little bit and let another studio co-produce like a new Gundam. Like it would be cool to see like a new Gundam property produced in part by Orange. I think that would look pretty badass.
Be interesting to see because I don't think any Gundam, the Gundams are never CG, right? They're all hand drawn, the models at least, like in the anime. So it'd be interesting to see if they would allow there's only like one CG Gundam series I know of. I can't remember the name of it, but
yeah, it's like
some random
too,
spinoff.
Right?
Yeah, it's a spinoff series, but it'd be interesting to see that happen if they do it. But yeah, Studio Orange, shout out to them.
Yeah, go watch their shit.